Hello everyone, and welcome back. We are going to continue on with our discussions of variables, expressions, and programs today. This is part 3 of this lecture series. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And you are, as usual, welcome to follow along in your own copy or with us right on the video. So we have been talking about the expressions, values, and types, and the statements and the parsing of expressions and overloading. Today we have a collection of some shorter topics, a little bit more about the variables, programs, print statements, and working with the comments. So what is a variable? A variable is something you've probably, again, encountered in your algebra class. Variables are names that refer to values. The rules for variable names are that it may contain only letters, digits, and the underscores. That means no special characters except for the underscores. You also can't have spaces in there because Python will interpret that or parse that as two separate things. It cannot begin with a digit. You can have a digit in another place, but not at the beginning. They are case sensitive, and they should not be any of Python's keywords. So you might say, well, Professor Thayer, how would I know what all the keywords are? I'm just starting out. Fair point. However, remember that Python has that very helpful feature of showing you the various colors. So that purple color is going to key you in that this is a Python keyword that you should not be using. Let's take a look at what would happen. Now, it is possible to use keywords as variables, but it is not a good idea. So suppose Professor Thayer wanted to make print equal to 1. Okay, well, what will happen? Apparently nothing. And say, okay, Python, what's print? But then the trouble comes. We try to actually, print something, print hello, and then we get the error. And we're saying, but why doesn't print work? Well, because print has been set to 1. It's not printing anymore. So if you accidentally do this, it's not a big deal. You haven't broken Python. You need to simply just close out your script and start again. And before you run your script, you need to remove that thing that assigns the variable, and everything will be fine. So as you can see, there are some things that are possible to do in Python, but not all things are good to do, excuse me, in Python. So here are some examples of variable assignments. Here's a variable A being assigned to the integer 2. Here's a variable B being assigned to a float, 2.0. C is equal to a string called cat, and D is the Boolean value false. Variable assignment happens when we use a variable and then we make it equal to and then some expression. The value of the variable becomes that of whatever the expression that's assigned to it. And as before, the expression is going to be expressed in the canonical form. Although we use the equal sign to do the variable assignment, we really wanted use the words takes the value of or gets the value of, and we'll see why that can help you to avoid some confusion in a moment. So A gets the value of 5, for example. So let's take a look at the variable assignment process. Again, this may feel a little bit too step by step, but I will show you why coming up. So step 1, the expression on the right hand is going to be evaluated. So here we have x equals 1 plus 1. We will evaluate the expression on the right hand side. 1 plus 1 equals 2. And then step 2, the value is assigned to the variable on the left. So now x gets the value of the answer from the right, or 2. Now, this is why I've been making a fuss about the variable assignment and how you actually go about doing this. So let's take a look. X equals 2. That's fine. Variable assignment. X equals x plus 3. Well, if we were in algebra class, we might say, well, I'm going to subtract x from both sides of the equation, right? Subtract x from both sides, and then we would get 0 equals 3. Well, that's nonsense. What does that mean? What's going on? And that's because we haven't been thinking about the Pythonic variable assignment. What this says The original value of x gets the value of 2. The new value of x gets the value of 2 plus 3. All right, take a moment to explain the two-variable assignment process, and then what will the value of x be? Take a moment to think through those things based on what we've just been talking about, and we'll see you back in a moment. All right, so the key here is really understanding that two-step variable assignment. That is to do first the variable assignment of x gets the value of 2, right? So, and then we do the expression x plus 3, evaluating this, right? So this is just in the beginning, but this is the real problem here. Right, so we're going to first evaluate the expression x plus 3. So we are going to look up the current value of x in the variable table, which is why we needed this expression here. So we go to the variable table to look up the current value of x, which is 2, and then we will do 2 plus 3 to get 5. So our first step in this one is of the variable expression evaluation is to solve the 2 plus 3 to get 5. Then in the second step, the integer value of 5 will be assigned to the variable x. In fact, this is actually a variable reassignment because x already exists in the table, so that value is overwritten. What will the value of x be now? The new value of x will be 5. So that variable table that I was mentioning, this also can be known as the environment or the state diagram. This is just a way of keeping track of the values assigned to each variable. So when you do a variable assignment, x gets the value of something, w gets the value of the string hello, x gets the value of 42 as an integer, and so on. An entry in the variable table is created. And if you change the value of it throughout the course of the execution of the program in variable reassignment, we would simply just update the variable table to reflect the new value. So reassigning a different value causes this table entry to be overwritten or updated. It is an error to refer to a variable that has not been assigned a value yet. That's why you have to make a value for your variables before you can use them. As Python runs a program, it repeatedly consults and updates its variable table to keep track of the program's state. Let's take a look at programs. What's your idea of what a program is? Take a moment to express in your own words what you think constitutes a Python program. You could write it on a piece of paper, you could type it on your computer, or even chat with your neighbor. Try to think of how this is for you, and let's come back in a moment to discuss the official version. All right, let's see what a program is according to the more official definition. A Python program is a sequence of statements. We can save a program to a plain text script file to edit or run it later. We'll use Python's built-in editor called idle for writing Python programs. Python script files, which you've now already seen in the hello world, should have the suffix .py. Running a program causes the statements to be executed in order. And we'll see that we can actually change up the order when we talk about flow control, but there is a predefined order which is by default from top to bottom, but that could be modulated by flow control. So unlike the interactive interpreter, running a program from the file does not cause the value of every expression to be displayed. So if you have a script and you do x gets the value of 2 and y gets the value of 3, and you do x plus y, you can't see it. So how do we know what Python is going to compute? Well, that brings us to printing, the print statements. So a print statement causes a textual representation of a value to be written to the screen. We sometimes call them print statements, but really it is in fact a function. We'll have more to say about functions coming up. Print will print the resolved value of what it is printing. Print itself is actually not a statement, but as I was just saying, a built-in Python function. Print only displays strings. So what if I want to print the answer to a math problem? Can I do it? Numbers will automatically be converted to the strings when they are printed. We can do print, and then you will put some text as a string. Here are some examples of things to print. Suppose you want to print some text, print. And here we have a sentence. The answer to life, the universe, and everything is. And we see that it prints out to the screen. Suppose you want to print a number. Remember that Python only prints things that are in string format. So we're going to put this in a nice string format for Python. But it can be helpful and it can put it into a string for you even if you don't. Print the value of a variable. Here is a variable called answer that gets the value of 2 plus 20 plus 20, which happens to be 42. Now we can print, and here we will substitute in the name of a variable, answer, which when we go to the variable table has that value of 42. So when we print the answer, we will get the value in the variable table, 42. Notice that it has converted it to a string for you. We also have print, the value of a numeric expression. So in this case, we solved the expression 2 plus 20 plus 20 as a variable answer. Here, we're doing something a little different by putting an expression directly inside of the print. So here we will print the answer directly. So it resolves this, and then it prints it out. Suppose you want to print some text and the value of a variable. So we have two different things to print. Here we have some text, right? The answer to life, the universe, and everything is, well, what is it? Let's print also the answer. So you can use a comma, and then you can put a variable here that so happens to be equal to that value. You could also put something else here. You could also put an actual, you could put the number. You'll have to convert it to a string. But you could put an expression here, right? There's lots of different things you could put here. Here we're putting the variable that is equal to the answer. And so then we will get the answer to life, the universe, and everything is, and 42. One thing to notice here is that when you print something and you have two different things being comma separated, that Python will insert an extra space for you. Notice here that there is no space here, or so actually it's kind of hard to tell if there's a space here. I think there's actually not. And there's no space here. And so what we see is that there is a space that shows up here, and that's because Python will insert a space for you when you have a comma separated thing to print. It's one of those things where Python is trying to be helpful for you. Suppose you want to print a concatenated string. So here we're going to print, and then our expression is a concatenated string, where all the things are plus together with overloading. Notice that what happens here is a slightly different thing that happens than when we did this example up here. These are concatenated together, and Python sees only one thing because the expression will first be evaluated. There's only a single string, which is the result of concatenating these strings together. So you don't get any spaces in between them, and we see the answer to life just here. We also have comments. And by that, I don't mean your opinions, really. What I mean about is comments for Python. A comment is text in a program that's intended for humans and not for computers. The comments are going to be ignored when the program is run. In Python, the comments start with a pound symbol and go to the end of the line. Here's an example of a line in some code. Print, programming is fun. And this exuberant programmer said, yes, it is, in the comments. Not valid Python code in and of itself, but it is fine as a comment because it is not considered by Python. An alternate style comment starts with the triple quotes and extends to the closing triple quote. Suppose you have several things that you need to say, and it can go on multiple lines. You can use those triple quotes so you don't have to keep putting a pound in front of each line. There are a number of reasons why we might want to use comments. We might want to put the header on the top of assignments, which you should be doing on each of the things you're turning into us. You might use it to explain the code. You might use it to set up the code outline before you fill it in, and you just want to put comments there to collect your ideas as to what should be there and what you're intending to put there. And you can also use it to debug the code, because what you can do is you can take actual code and you can turn it into a comment so that Python won't execute it. This is useful if you need to isolate the location of a potential problem. Here's a few tips for using code. Using comments, and it's integrated right into these little examples. So we can use the triple single quotes for making comments. Begins with triple quotes, and here's more triple quotes. Here is a comment in the triple double quotes. So I tend to prefer to use the triple double quotes for my comments, and the reason is because I might have some strings inside which I want to use the single quotes on. I mean, you can use the double quotes on the strings and do it the other way, but this tends to be, I think, the easiest to type. And also if you have any contractions or any other things. The problem is if you mix the quotes, like down here, or Python interpretative makes the quotes, it's not going to work. And so if you have open, 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 and then you have, let's say you had a string in here, it would it would be counting as it's going along to see if it has 3 close quotes, and you might get the closing be in the wrong place. You can comment by line using the pound symbol, and you can also comment by the triple quotes, right? So you use the pound sign, this thing, to comment the whole line. The pound symbol will basically comment from wherever it appears to the end of the line, which means you could actually have it after some code, as we're seeing here. In these cases, there wasn't anything before it, so the whole line is just a comment, but the same thing will work. You can comment after something else, like here's a print. You can use print to print something out, and mixed quotes do not work for commenting. Yeah, we've seen this already. So double, double, single, single, double, double, it doesn't make a comment because it matches, right? So you say, oh, it's fine, right? Triple quotes. No, you have to do one or the other. Here is where I'm illustrating what can happen when you have something that has quotes inside of the thing that you're putting your comments on. So here I'm using the triple double, and say that I want to print, like to have quotes inside of a quote. So I have these quotes here, they're the string quotes, but they're inside of my triple quotes here. You have to be sure to use the different quote styles, because otherwise, let's suppose I use single, single, single. So it's triple quote, right? So that's gonna be for open. Then this would be close 1, close 2, close 3. Oh, that's the end of the comment. That's what Python is going to think. And that's not right. That's not the correct parsing of it. So what you need to do is you need to use different kinds of quotes. Since the single quotes are most often used in the executable code, using the double quotes to block off a section for development or troubleshooting is a good idea. Now, you don't have to do that, but that's the convention that you'll see me using, and I would suggest you probably want to adopt it too. So just don't forget that. The quotes can easily be removed from the above block to uncomment the code. So this also exemplifies that idea. Maybe I thought there's a problem here, or I am sick of it printing out when I run my script, so I can close it off so that it won't run. But if I simply just deleted these quotes, then this code then returns to being executable as normal code, where these are still protected as comments because they have the pound, but right now they're inside the quotes. So these are like doubly commented out. So in your submissions, it's a good idea for you to make use of the comments. You should put a heading at the top of your pages each time. So here's an example of something that you could do. So you should include your name, the course number and section to which you registered, the assignment name, and the date. So here's some examples of comment use in Python. What are the different uses of comments in this snippet? I'm actually taking a bit of code from the Caesar cipher in Python. This is an exercise in code reading, where you're looking ahead at some of the other things that are coming up, and see what you can find in here. You can go ahead and pause the video to see if you can identify some of these, and we will be back with you in a moment. All right, so let's just talk through some of the things that we have here. So here we have an example of a heading at the top. Here we are writing some functions, which we're going to talk about in some future lessons. But so even though you don't know about what's a function yet, you can still get the idea that we're filling in information, right? That's not being executed by the program. It's telling something about what the function does. It tells us that it's going to return non-negative index of the first occurrence of a character in a string. Otherwise, it has some other behavior. So it gives us a sense of what this is going to be about. And they have pass in there, and just because this is the one I'm going to assign to you. So we put pass there for you to go fill it out. But this illustrates how we can put that at the top. And similarly, here's another example of the triple quotes inside of a function, because this is going to also be providing information about what the function is going to do. All right, well, thanks so much for joining us today and this week for our discussions about the variables, programs, and various assorted other things. We have talked about the expressions, values, and Python types. We've also taken a look at statements and parsing the expressions, that is pulling that meaning out. We've also looked at overloading, that is using the same operator to do multiple things, such as adding and concatenating. We've looked at variables, how we define them, getting the value of, and how that variable table updates. We've looked at programs, putting statements together. We've also seen print, which we have worked with before, but we've seen how print works in a bit more of a formal sense. And finally, we have talked about not your comments, but comments that one would put in a Python program using the triple quotes, or the triple single quotes, or the triple double quotes, either one, or you can use the pound symbol for that. All right, so thanks so much for being with us. I hope you found this to be helpful, and we look forward to seeing you the next time.